Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon to all the participants who have joined us from around the globe for today's webinar. A hearty welcome to all of you. My name is Swati and I work as a publication editor at Manuscriptedit and will be moderating today's webinar. The topic for today's webinar is research planning, designing, and reporting strategies for successful research outcomes. We are extremely happy and proud to have Dr. Shiparna Chatterjee as the speaker for today's session. Dr. Chatterjee's credentials include 57 SciIndexed articles, 2 patents, and 4 major research grants, 15 awards and accolades. To date, she has delivered more than 35 scientific lectures in different scientific forums, a well-recognized speaker and a reviewer for top journal houses like Elsevier, ACS, Wiley, Springer, RSC. Her expertise will help you overcome common and complex research hurdles. We'll be taking the questions after the webinar is complete and will be open for our Q&A session. So now I would request Dr. Chatterjee to take over and start the session. Over to you, Dr. Chatterjee.
Thank you, Dr. Swati, for this kind introduction. I hope the audience is audible. I'm audible to the audience.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and just give me some time to share the screen. If you can see my screen, just let me know.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So, as we know that today we are here to discuss about the strategies for research planning, designing, and reporting strategies for successful research outcome. Now, this is a very long title, isn't it? I mean, many words are there. So, I mean, if I mean, just segment this long title, then first we see the component that is research planning, then comes the component of designing, and then how to report. And why these components are important? These components are important because we want to have a successful research outcome. So basically, to have a successful research outcome, we have to start from the planning. So we have to start from the planning, then we have to design our research in a very effective way, and then finally we have to do the reporting effectively, and then only we can get a successful research outcome. So before going to the technical part, just let me introduce myself to you. I mean, already Swati ji told, very nice things about me. So basically, but I don't know, I mean, this audience may be very varied and maybe from different background. So my background is like, I did my bachelor and master's in chemistry. And after that, I did my PhD again in chemistry. And once I completed my PhD, then I did my postdoctoral I had my postdoctoral experiences in material science. So I had a switch from basic chemistry, maybe like from master degree onwards, then I had a switch to an interdisciplinary field. So mostly in today's talk, today's presentation, whatever I'm going to, show or whatever I'm going to discuss, it is on the basis of my experience, my journey since 2006. Of course, it will vary person to person, subject to subject, but it's an overall thing that, we all can experience and we all can correlate. Now, let us come back to the point. Like here we are discussing the research planning, designing, and reporting strategies for successful research outcome. See, now what is our main objective? Our main objective is to understand the critical components of effective research strategies. Okay, so this is our objective. Now, to do this, we have to focus on several areas. So first is like importance of planning. So first we will try to understand that why research planning is very important. And then we will shift to the designing of impactful research, and then we will move to the reporting of the scientific with respect to societal impact. So we will focus on both scientific and societal impact, because now today's research is, if you see that it is mostly applied research. So we have to incorporate both the scientific and the societal impact. Okay, so now first let us start with the research planning. So before we go to the research planning, let us first understand what is research. So research, as we know, that whenever we do something new, okay, it may be creation of some new knowledge, maybe you by the use of existing knowledge, or maybe by using some creative way, so we can create some new concept, or we can create some new methodology, or maybe we can understand the system, or maybe the theory, or maybe the result in a newer way. Okay, so creation of something novel is called research, and it can, as I have already mentioned, that it can be like synthesis, it can be analysis of previous research, and so that it can have something novel component in your study. Now, what is research plan? Okay, so now we understood what is research. Now then, what is research plan? So research plan is nothing but a map, a very personal map that relates projects to goals and professional timeline. Okay, so see, why do we plan something? When do we plan? When we have a definite time scale, when we have a definite timeline, and we want to execute something within that timeline very successfully, then we plan, isn't it? So research plan is similar kind of thing, a very personalized map that relates projects to goal and professional timeline. And again, so the next pointer, if you see, it is written that it should be revisited, reevaluated, and revised at least annually. See, I have taken this from internet and it is written annually, but I would say for the students, probably it is good to check, to revisit, to re-evaluate within 3 months of time. So in every 3 months of time, you can do the things, this revisit, reevaluation, and all these things. Then you will be on the right track. Otherwise, if you spend too much of time without revisiting and reevaluation, then you won't be able to reach to your goal within a specific time. Okay, so this timeline mapping is very important. Now, how one can do, right? For a professional who is experienced, for him or her, it can be easier. Okay, but for a student, or maybe a little bit senior student, or maybe for a postdoctoral fellow, sometimes it may be difficult, okay, to do. Then you should be always open to seek help of your mentor, your supervisor, or maybe some of your friend or colleague, or maybe your co-worker in your lab. Okay, so just you need to just discuss that. See, I thought that this I'll do. This was my plan, but I don't know. I mean, whether it is going in the same line or I am deviating. If I am deviating, whether it is good. If if it is not good, then how I can get back to the right track. One should be very open to discuss all these things, and it will help multiple, with various good things. it will serve multiple purposes with length and detailed adjustment to the each of your research purpose. So basically, this is about research plan. Now, research planning is having several components. Okay, so to do the research planning, here I have listed. First, one should identify or one should define what is the research problem. And to do this, one should identify the existing gaps in knowledge. I'll come detail maybe in the later slides. And one should develop a clear, focused research questions. And of course, again, I will come that how one can do that. The second important point is that how to set research objectives. So the research objective of a research plan should be very specific. It should be measurable. It should be achievable. It can't be like, something very random. So the objective should be very much achievable. It should be relevant and of course, time bound, because the planning is very much related to the time framing. Okay. And then comes the importance of literature review. Literature review is important because one needs to conduct systematic reviews to frame research within the current context. Before planning, you should know what are the works already, have been done. And then only you can think that what needs to be done, what addition one can do. If you don't have that idea, then it will be very difficult for one to propose something novel. Novelty will not be there in his or her proposal. Okay, so how one can do the literature review? To do this literature review, there are databases and research tools like Scopus, PubMed, now we have ORCID and many others. These are just examples. There are very nice databases and tools one can explore, one can use them effectively to do the literature review. And then finally, the point comes that is called hypothesis formulation. Okay. Now, what exactly we do here? We create testable predictions based on theory or prior findings. Okay. So these are the four things one needs to be, needs to focus on this. First, they need to define research problem, then research objective, then do the literature review, and then finally, formulation of hypothesis. Now, let me just give you one example, a case study on research problem. See, I work on green energy or sustainable energy kind of work. So, I'm taking an example in that field, because it will be easier for me to explain. So see, probably I'm say just for example, let us assume that I am trying to work on a research problem titled Understanding the Barriers to Sustainable Green Energy Solution. Okay. Now, first what I have to do, I have to introduce the problem. Okay. So to introduce the problem, what I have to do, I have to check what is the global energy demand. Okay, what's the environmental impact? I'm talking about like to having some sustainable green energy. Then why do I need it? Okay, if the energy is not sustainable, if the energy is not green, then what is the environmental effect of this? And there are, some commonly used energy solution we are having, and we want to switch from the present one to a sustainable green future of energy. Then what is the challenge behind it? Why it is difficult to do the transition from the present one to the future one? I need to understand that, and then only I can introduce the problem next. Now, after we introduce the problem, then I should have key research questions in my mind. Okay, to iterate the research problem nicely. So how one can make green energy technologies more efficient and scalable? Because this efficiency and scalability are the very important thing whenever we are trying to give some solution to the community, isn't it? The next question, what are the technological innovations required to overcome the current limitation in renewable energy storage and distribution? How can sustainable energy solution be made more accessible and more affordable? Again, when we are talking about the community service, community goal, then we always need to think about sustainability, accessibility, affordability, all these things, right? So these are the things first we should, focus on. And then, as I have told you, like there are the key research question. I gave you, say, for 3 examples. Now you will ask me that, okay, this is your field, right? That's why you could easily frame 3 questions and you could say, okay, these are the, questions. But see, in my field, how do I found these questions, key research questions? Yes. So, what is a good research question? The key attributes are you have to be very specific. It should be original, or from the beginning, and again I'm using a word called novelty. So it should be original or novel. It should have general relevance to a broader scientific community. Okay. And then the research question should be very precise. Okay. It should not be like a very general kind of thing. It should be very precise. You should target. You should be very target. You should target something very specific. Okay. And a study may or may not necessarily have to break completely new ground, but it should extend previous knowledge in a useful way, or alternatively refute existing knowledge. The question should be of interest to others who work in the same scientific area. This is very important. The question what you are raising now, if it doesn't excite your co-workers, the people who are working in the same field, then what, then how you are, going to work in that field. Okay. And this is again related to the novelty. If your proposal is novel, then obviously it will attract interest to others. So these things are very much interrelated. Okay. So the next thing, like how to identify the current gaps and challenges while while proposing a plan, research plan. So 2 things one can focus. One is technological gap and the other one is socio-economical barriers. Now, as I was, talking about some energy related, sustainable green energy related thing. So the technological gap could be energy conversion efficiency. Whenever I'm giving some energy solution, then I should think about the energy efficiency, right? If it is not efficient system, then it is of no use. And how do I integrate to have a larger framework? Okay, so these are the technological gap. And what will be my socio-economic barrier? Socio-economic barrier will be cost. How affordable it is, how much scalable it is. So this is my socio-economic barrier. And what could be the suggested solution? Our focus should be on the research that bridges this technological gap and the socio-economical gap. Okay, so I should find out a problem which will act as a bridge between these 2 gaps, and I can explore interdisciplinary approaches to develop such kind of, to aim a solution for such kind of problem. Okay, so that's why in the beginning I told you that I come from a chemistry background till my master degree, and then I switched depending on the problem on what I am working now. Okay, so that's why in today's research, interdisciplinary approach, cross-disciplinary approach is very, very important. Okay, if we want to solve, really want to solve, or we want to bridge the gaps between this technological aspect and the socio-economic aspect. Okay, now if you remember the previous slide, so the next component was literature review. I told you that literature review is very important. Now let us see why it is so important. Okay, so basically literature review firstly it will give you an interpretation of existing literature. First, what will you see? That already what have been done by the people. So you know, okay, I need to start from here. Okay, so sometimes what happens, you think something, you think, okay, this is something very novel. I will start working on this. Okay, and then when you see the literature, then you see, oh, okay, people have already done this maybe 5 years back, 4 years back, or maybe even more than that. So then you know, okay, so people have already done that, then, but they could not achieve the final goal. So then your novelty comes. Then how you can apply your solution, you can provide your solution to achieve the final goal. So that's why to study the existing literature is very, very important. Okay. And it brings out the dialects of contradictions between various thought. Okay, sometimes, I mean, if you go through the introduction, I guess many of you have already, I mean, read papers. So you will often find that it is written like this group has seen that group they have seen that they told this, they reported that, and but they have a conflict, they have some contradiction. Okay, because their thought processes are different. So whenever you go through those literatures, you come to know the difference between their thoughts. Okay, and it also indicates the current research place in the schema of the particular field. And then what it does, then it basically helps you to find out the research gap, because finding out research gap is very important. And if you can find out the research gap, then automatically it will provide you the information for your proposals, relevancy and coherence. Okay, these things are very much again interlinked. And finally, what it will do, it will also help, it will enormously help you in calculating the impact of the latest information. So this is the total feature of literature review. Now the next problem, or maybe the next question, that how we can find a research topic. Okay, so I mean, the finding of research topic, you have to foresee the benefit of your research. Okay, so who will be the taker of your research? This is very important. And you should also think that in which way you are going to get the solution. That should be your approach. Okay, so how to do this? So first you focus on the topic or area. For that, you have a very genuine interest or you have a passion to do this. If I randomly give you, just now I told that I'm working in the field of energy, that doesn't mean that everyone has to work on the similar field. There can be healthcare, there can be censored, there can be some very basic research from chemistry, from physics. See, we have so many diverse fields, right? So you need to understand where you are getting interested. This is the first and foremost thing. Okay. And then you try to gather knowledge. So how you can do that? Most of us are associated with some institute, some university, some college. Then we need to, utilize our institute's database. Okay. And again, we need to understand our strength. Some of us are good in experimentation. Then probably they should go for the experimental research. But maybe some are not that good in experimentation, but they are very good in calculation, simulation. Then probably that kind of research is for them. So it is not like that everyone has to do the same thing. You need to understand what is your strength, what is your passion, and depending on that, you need to find your research topic. The only thing is that what one should keep in mind, it should be very simple. Simple means it should be very straightforward. Okay. And it should be manageable and of course doable. You cannot, you cannot propose something that is not at all achievable. It's so fancy that, you can't do it in practice. Okay. So you have to be very practical. That is very important to find a research topic. And for research objective, you need to be very, very smart. And the SMART, for SMART's S stand for specific, that make your goal specific and narrow for effective planning. M stands for measurable, that means make sure your goal and progress are measurable. A stands for achievable, that your accomplishment, your goal within a certain time frame, you should have. And R is of course relevant, that your goal should align with your values and long-term objective. And then finally again, time. Time is very, very crucial. Set a realistic goal, but at the same time, it should be ambitious as well, so that you can prioritize your goal, your task, and you can increase your motivation. Okay, there will be people who will be always there to motivate you, but self-motivation is very, very crucial. Okay, so these are the smartness, or the SMART index is the key of research objective. So what did we understand till now? So we have to choose our research topic. We have to narrow it down and find our niche. We have to identify a research problem. Once we identify a research problem, then we have to develop a clear question set. Based on those question set, we have to design our research so that we can answer those questions. And once we do this, then we will be able to write down our research proposal. Okay. I hope this is clear. Now, just let us understand, to do research design, what are the key components we should focus on. So the research design should have very clear purpose. And the sampling is very, very important, because in this sampling category, you need to take the decision about sample size, method, criteria for inclusion or exclusion. And this approach will vary from for different subject area, different groups and different things. Okay. And then, of course, once you do the sampling, then the outcome of sampling will be what? Data generation. So you have to collect once the data is generated, then you have to do the data collection, right? So then you need to think that which data you need to collect, how to collect, what kind of instruments you need to use. For example, again, from my own experience, I can share that if I need to see, say, morphology of, say, nanomaterials, then I need to use scanning electron microscope to see the morphology. I need to use transmission electron microscope. Now, from scanning electron microscope, I'll get a definite type of information. And from the transmission electron microscope, I'll get a different type of information. So these are two types of data collection. Now I need to decide that for a specific purpose, what kind of data I need and how I need to collect them, what kind of instrument I need to use, what should be the resolution of the instrument, and all these things. Okay. Now, once the data is generated, data is collected, then what will you do? Will you sit with those data? Then what is the use of that? I mean, so much of exercise. You have collected data, you have generated data, you have collected data. So the very obvious thing is that you need to analyze your data. Unless and until you don't analyze your data, you can't reach to any decision, any conclusion, right? So the very important next job is data analysis. Now, what are research design, these are the process, those were the processes of research design. Now, while doing the research design, what you should keep in mind. So you should keep in mind the type of research methodology. You should keep, of course, keep in your mind your time frame and the ethical consideration. I'll come about this ethical thing later on of this presentation, but always keep in your mind that the research design must include decisions about ethical consideration, such as informed consent, confidentiality, participant protection, all these things. Keep in your mind. Ethical consideration is very, very important. And resources. A good research design takes into account decision about the budget, how much money do you need to execute the problem, how much stuff do you need, and other resources like how much chemical do you need, what will be the cost of, say, all equipments, all characterization techniques may not be available in your institute, then how to access them, planning. Okay, these all are part of your planning. So one needs to be very specific about all these things. So you have planned your research, then you have designed it, you generated data, you collected data, you analyzed data, done up to this. And then what we need to do? We need to do reporting strategy, right? Unless and until we report our findings, then how other people will know, isn't it? So reporting of research finding is very, very important. And how do we report our research finding? That's through scientific publication. Okay. Now this publication can be various type. I'm coming to the in the next slide. So what's the ideal concept? So about reporting, we generally think that, this is just to convey a research idea and like share the research finding for enriching and advancing of knowledge. It's very simple, right? But actually, practically, rather I would say, reporting is very important to get funding, to get job, to get promoted, and of course, to sustain your job. Okay. So these are the practical things for which we need effective reporting strategy. Okay. So there is a quotation that it says that scientists are rated by what they finish, not by what they attempt. Now, how people will know that what scientists have finished until they report their findings? Okay. Just to understand the importance of documentation of research finding in scientific publication, Elsevier did a survey in 2005 and 2010, and you see this is the ratio. So the green one is the 2010 survey, and the steel color one is 2005 survey. And you can see that dissemination of result for further knowledge, it is decreasing in 2010 to 78% when it was 84% in 2005. And interestingly, to secure funding for future research project in 2010 survey, it is increased to 4%, whether in case of 2005 surveys, it was 30%. So it is important. So just in the previous slide, what I told that there is one ideal condition and there is something, it's called practical situation. So you can see now the implication of practical situation. Okay. So how do we do it? I told just now that we have to do this through scientific publication. Now, to go for a scientific publication, we have to write manuscript. We have to prepare our manuscript, right? So when should we submit manuscript for scientific publication? Once we have data, once we have generated everything, immediately should we publish? No, there are certain conditions when we should aim for publication of our scientific result through a manuscript. See, these editors and the reviewers are the niche resource people of a journal house. Okay, so they are generally they are scientists or professors, and many of them are pioneer in their respective field. Okay, and mostly the editors and the reviewers of these journal houses are not, they don't get paid. Okay, so they are not professional journal staff, and they do they do share this responsibility along with their own research, writing, teaching, and everything. Okay, and they do this kind of a reviewer's job or editor's job voluntarily to contribute to the science. Okay, so general trend is that reviewers, they don't get paid. Mostly these publication houses, known publication houses. Maybe some editors get some small payment, though I'm not very sure about it. But as a reviewer, I can again cite my example. I have not received any payment from so-called established journal houses. Now, every manuscript takes up their precious time, okay? And they are excusing time from their busy schedule to evaluate your manuscript, okay? That's why we can't send something junk to them to evaluate. So before sending manuscript for publication, whatever be the type, the author or the authors of that group must be fully satisfied. They should be fully satisfied that yes, we did something novel. This is publishable. This is the thing what we want to, we want to let other people know that yes, we have done something new. Okay, then only it should go for publication. Now, I told, but again, I know that it is not a very easy job, right? Because whenever we talk about these things, lot of questions come to our mind. Okay, from where do we start? How to write the experimental section? Okay, how to write the title? How much should I write in the abstract section? Introduction should be how much long? Like, should I put my data in the format of table, or I should just write in the text? Which keywords will attract the audience? Okay, reference. Should I give the reference from very recent works, or I should also consider the previous works? How to write the resultant discussion? Now just think about figures. Figures can be presented in so many ways. You can just give, just pie charts, or you should give it in a line graph, points, bar charts. How to make them fascinating? How to make them attractive? There are so many questions comes, right, in our mind. So let us just try to understand one by one how we can solve these issues. So typically, there are research paper of this kind of varieties. So there are letters or rapid communication or short communications. In these segments, actually, you can publish the results very quickly. Very important findings that you want to, sorry, I have some throat infection, so I just need to sip something hot. So you need to communicate those things as rapid communication, letters, and all these things. Now, if you have a lengthy work, that you can, it's a detailed work, not lengthy, I would say it's a detailed work, okay, that you should publish as a full or original research paper, okay. Other than that, you can also aim for review article or perspective. Generally, these are often invited, but again, one can submit. This review and the perspective often, I would say review generally help when you are doing an extensive literature search. Then automatically you will be triggered to write a review. And of course, from the, I think the healthcare sector or maybe the medical sector, there will be case studies and clinical trials. I am not very, familiar with this part, this thing, D section. But yeah, these A, B, and C, I often, publish this kind of applications. So I'm confident talking about these three categories. Now, the important thing is that one has to self-evaluate his or her work. That, see, whether this article is sufficient enough to push for a full article. You yourself will be, you will be, before starting this work, you are doing literature survey. Okay, so at least you are reading 50 to 100 papers. So now when you are, and after that you have done your research, you have done your experiments, you have collected your data, you have, plotted your data, analyzed your data. Now when you are going to, write manuscript, then you will have a feeling that, okay, with this much of data, whether it will be a full article or I should aim for a communication, short communication. Now again, it will be, you will be able to judge that how important is this finding. Should it go for a rapid communication? Is it so important? Okay, so interesting. Or it is a, some advancement in the field. So self-evaluation is very important. Sometimes it happens that you are new in the field, okay? Probably you are in the first year or second year in your course of study, okay? So then what you can do, again, talk to your supervisor, talk to your mentor, talk to your friend, talk to your senior, lab mates of your lab, and you can just discuss with them. They just see, these are my results, these are my findings, I am trying to write a publication, and what should be the category. See, one should be very open. This is the very important thing. Now, the question comes, when to start writing the research paper? The model one, which is very general, that you have the idea, you have done the research, and then you will write the paper. Okay. The second approach is very interesting. When you don't wait to write, then what you do, you basically, you have the idea and you start writing the paper while simultaneously doing the research. Okay. It's a good idea. It's not bad because when you start the research, then you consider writing as your partner in the research. Okay. But yeah, it's a little bit tricky. So generally model one is followed, is in the, whatever we do, we all do. Okay. So what should be the typical structure of a research paper? See, it should be like the body of a fish, very streamlined. Okay, so see, your title, author, abstract, and keywords, this slowly it should increase. And the most, vital part should be your main text, and that will include your introduction, method, result, and discussion. And then again, your narrower parts will be your conclusion, acknowledgement, reference, a few tables and figures, and again, a little bit of wider part may be your supplementary information. So this is the typical idea. Now, students often ask, okay, that what should be the order? If I start writing a paper, then what should be the order? So what I follow, I'll tell you. Once I have the data with me, first I do the plotting, I do the table, I do the figures. This is the first job I do. Okay. Then I write this is for the beginners. Okay. Then I write the methods and materials, that is the experimental section. So I prepare my plots, tables, and figures. I write my experimental section. And depending on the plots, tables, and figures, now one by one, I write the result, experimental result, and then I try to discuss them. So the result and then discussion. And of course, when you are trying to discuss, then you have to cite some reference. Okay. So the referencing is the simultaneous thing there. Once I finish this discussion, result and discussion, along with the upper one, this experimental and this plotting figure, then I go to introduction, because now I know that what I have done. And then I go to okay, what people have done earlier, now how to bridge the gap. So then I do write the introduction. Once this whole thing is done, introduction, result, experimental, result and discussion is done, then I finally write down my conclusion. Then I go through the whole paper, and of course, each and every time there is some refinement is there for the introduction part. And of course, so again and again you have to revise, and there will be some changes, and then you give it to your colleague, your supervisor, then they will again suggest something. And the one most important thing is that be open to accept suggestion. That's the very important thing. Nobody is trying to misguide you. Nobody is trying to kill your time. They just, with their experience, they are trying to help you. Okay. So just, be little, have little patience and try to understand what your peers are suggesting and try to incorporate them. Automatically, your manuscript will be a better one. So now let us see from the reader's perspective. Okay, so when we read a paper, okay, so what is the typical, number? See, it is seen that generally 1,000 people read only the title. Okay, now if your abstract is say about 250 words, then 100 people will read. If your introduction is 1 page, 10 readers. If the problem is of 1 page, 10 readers. If your idea is say 2 pages, 10 readers. And if your details is of 5 pages, then drastically your readers, it comes down to 3 readers. Okay. And your this conclusion and further work, you will have very less people, 0.5 per pages. Okay. So you have to be very particular. Your title should be very engaging and it should attract the audience. This is very important. So what are the effective and criteria to write an effective title? One needs to identify the main issue of the paper. Okay, it should be accurate, very specific, as short as possible. If you write a 3-line title, nobody is going to read it, and even if people are reading that, they won't be able to understand, because when they will read the 3rd line, they will forget the first, right? So try to be very specific, as short as possible, with some catchy words, but again, don't be very fancy, be scientific, and do not use abbreviation in the title. Okay, it's better to use the whole thing. And then keyword. Now sometimes we think that for what we use keywords, do they have any use? See, the keywords are very important. In an electronic world of today, keywords determine whether your work, your article will be found in internet or not. In general, whenever we do something, we just Google. So your keyword should be very, closely related to those, such findings. Okay. So you should avoid making very general keywords like drug delivery, mouse disease. No. Again, it should not be too narrow that nobody will ever search for it. So you have to keep a balance between these two. So what should be the effective approach? The effective approach will be, you have to look at the keywords for article, and generally in journals you will see they prefer 5 to 6 keywords, and you have to be little rational, I would say, to use those keywords. And if you remember the timeline, abstract catches reader's attention, and it's an advertisement of your whole article. People will read your title and then abstract. If they're interested, they will go through the whole text. If they are not, they will not read. So typically abstract is of say 250 words, and there you have to summarize the novelty, the importance of your work. You have to highlight them, and at the same time, very briefly, very precisely, you have to state your final outcome of the study. This is very, very important. Okay, so so this is like structural. These are basically the structure types of structured abstract and unstructured abstract. And now introduction. Okay, so introduction is very important. Sometimes people start from the ancient age, and then while they come to the correct problem, then already it is 5 pages or 6 pages. It is of no use. Nobody is going to spend so much of time. Okay, so again here you have to be concise. Okay, So you have to write what is the problem, why it is important, and what is lacking in the current knowledge. Is there any existing solution? If it is there, then which one is the best? And then you have to draw attention that what is the limitation, right? There is some limitation, and that's why you are doing further research in that field, isn't it? So you have to highlight the limitation, and then you should write that how you intend to overcome it. That is very important. Okay. So in the introduction, most of your references will come. Okay, a large part of your reference will come. So cite only relevant references to support your key statement. Okay. It is generally advisable to not use expressions like novel, first time, first ever, this kind of thing. Of course, you should place your claim in a very affirmative tone, but you should write it in other words. Okay, the reviewers generally, they do not like to read these kind of wordings in the introduction. And your introduction, of course, it should bridge the gap. Okay, so first you need to show the gap, and then through your knowledge and intervention, you should show that how the gap will be filled. So that is the focus of your idea. Okay. So, okay. So your paper, have just one thing, that your paper should have one clear and sharp idea. Okay. So if you have lots of idea and lots of data, it's very good. You do write multiple papers, but don't put all data together. But at the same time, you should not do salami slicing. Okay, this is also very important. You should not do the salami slicing, but at the same time, you should not do, should not put all the data together. So, how your narrative should flow. So you have to imagine that you are explaining at a whiteboard. So you have to identify the problem. You have to show, you have to draw interest of the reader to the problem. You have to tell that it's an unsolved problem. This is your idea, how your idea is working. Idea basically is comparing to the other people's approach. So this is how your narrative should flow. Okay. And of course, once your introduction makes claim, then your body of the paper, that is the result and discussion section, it will provide the evidence. What you have and claimed in the introduction section, that okay, see, these are the possible way in which we can solve the problem. So in your body or in your result and discussion, you will say that yes, see, these are the evidences that my claims were right, and this is how I am solving the issue. Okay. So you have to check each and every claim in the introduction, identify the evidence, and forward reference it from the claim. Okay. Now, how to, you can ask, like, what do you mean by evidence? Okay. So the evidence can be the analysis of your data, analysis of your result. Okay. Data analysis, basically. You can compare with the measurement, previous reports. You can take help of simulation. You can take help of theories to support your experimental data. Okay, so this is the evidence. Okay, now there is one very important thing. See, we feel that to make my work look good, I have to make other people's work look bad. This is completely wrong. This is wrong. It is not needed. You prove your work is good. Other people have done some sort of advancement. You have done maybe something more, or maybe you have approached or you have seen the problem from a different angle, and probably you are giving a better solution with, maybe it may be like afford from the point of affordability, from the point of efficiency, from the point of scalability. There may be so many factors. But for that, you don't need to, you don't need to make other people's work down or, bad. Okay, this is a wrongdoing. Okay. So, putting the readers first, quickly come to what was in this section basically. Do not recapitulate your personal journey of discovery. This route may be soaked with your blood, but that is not interesting to the readers, right? When you're going to talk, you are going to present something like today I am talking to you in a, it's such a nice platform. I'm sharing many things with you. But when I'm writing a scientific paper, a scientific manuscript, that's not the platform where I'm going to share my personal things. Okay. Instead, I should choose the most direct route to the idea. Okay. Now, for the experimental thing, you have to include all details so that the readers can repeat the work. Repeatability is very, very important. You should, mention the company from where the instruments are procured, the chemicals, the purity of the chemicals, the company of the chemicals. And like, it's always very nice if you can give a nice short kind of thing that, and some very minor details. More and more detail you add in the experimental section, the chance of repeatability get enhanced. Okay. And reviewers always criticize incomplete or incorrect information in the experimental section. So be very attentive while writing the experimental section. And one good practice to write a good experimental section is that when you are doing your experiments, then have a logbook with you, have a copy with you, and write down each and every point. At that time, you may think that it's very funny, it's very silly, why to write this? But it's very important. Okay, even it will help you to understand why certain experiments fail. It's very important. And then comes to the results section. Of course, the main findings will be included there. And of course, not the all findings. Maybe you can put the other findings which are not that important as a supporting information. Now, many of the journals, they allow us to give supporting information that you can use there, and highlight the findings that differ from findings in previous publication, or maybe something unexpected, some new findings. And then you should, in your discussion section, you should analyze why it is so unexpected, why it is so interesting, isn't it? Okay. And the figures and tables, these are very important. See, if when you are going to read some paper, if the figures are very attractive, automatically you'll be, very interested to go through the paper. Okay. So it is good nowadays, most of the journals, they allow, at least for the online version, they allow colored figures. So try to, avail that facility, make nice plots with different color, different kind of symbols. It will help. There are several softwares to do that. Okay. And while using color, this color should be distinguishable. So just to compare two graphs, please don't use black and navy blue. Then it has no meaning. Okay. So you have to again think judiciously that to make them distinguishable, which kind of colors one should use. Okay. And we always need to be a little bit of little bit of imaginative. how we can represent our data in a nicer way. Okay, nobody will love to have to see a very long, boring data set. So just try to be little innovative in presenting your data, but again, there should be some limit. Don't be too much fashionable, because ultimately this is a scientific publication. And discussion section. So discussion section is the very important, because here you are establishing your thought. Okay. And discussion section should be very, very strong. Okay. Because here you have to relate all the experimental findings of your work and with the previous work, and at the same time you have to bring something new. You have to tell something new. You have to explain what is the physics behind it, what is the chemistry behind it, what is the science behind it. Okay, so this is very important. So you make statement that go beyond what the result can support. Sorry. So what you should not do, you should not make statement that go beyond what the result can support, and do not suddenly introduce some new term or new ideas. Okay. So what you have to do, your discussion should be very logical, that will lead to your conclusion. Okay. And at the same time, it should help you to establish novelty of your work. Okay. And finally, the conclusion part. So in conclusion, write down the total final message of the total work very briefly, very concisely, and you also can write the global perspective. Okay, just don't write same thing what you have written in the abstract section or something like that. Okay, it is always good to highlight limitation of your work, so that you can relate this limitation with the future scope of the whole study. Okay, and what will happen? Basically, it gives an authentication of your study. Okay, and it will help the readers and the reviewers to judge your work. So conclusion is very, very important. And as I have told, like referencing is very important. For referencing, you have to, the introduction part will have the majority of the referencing, but again, the discussion part will also have the referencing. Try to have up-to-date relevant references. But of course, sometimes you will have very old references also. It doesn't mean that you have to always exclude all the old references. It's not like that. Always keep a balance. And it is always good practice not to use excessive self-citation. It is completely agreeable that if you have done in the related work, you have done some work in the related field, and if they are, if they should be cited, yes, you should cite them. I'm not saying that you should not cite any of your paper. No, you should cite, but excessive use of self-citation is not that good practice. Okay. And finally, the acknowledgement section. This is very important. Give due credit to the people who have helped you. All people who have helped you to do the whole experimentation and all these things may not be in the author list, but you can always acknowledge them. One, we must acknowledge the funding agency, and like if you like some research group from where you have taken some support or something like that, if someone has helped you to to teach you some software or something, you are always welcome. There is no harm in acknowledging. Okay, so it is always good practice giving due credit to others. Okay, it doesn't diminish your own credit from your paper. Supplement regarding supplementary material, I have already established this authorship. Different group they have different practice of authorship, but what must be seen, the scientific contribution of the author in a paper must be ensured. This is very, very important. Nowadays, for many of the journal houses, clearly it is written, that they will ask you author contribution list, that whose research plan was done by whom, research work was done by whom, fund acquisition was done by whom. You have to give the names. It's a very good practice. Mostly Elsevier, I have seen these for Elsevier journals, and I hope that all other journals will also adopt this thing. It's a very good thing. And finally, revise, and revise. All your authors of the paper should go through the paper in very detail. Okay, double check the references. You have to, change. With every revision, there will be some change, but don't worry. With every time with the changes, your way of presentation is getting better. Okay, so do it. So basically, identify your key idea, tell in the form of a story, rather I would say a scientific story, and state your contribution, put your readers first, and listen to your readers. Now, for the journal publication, like there are many journal houses, popular journals also from different fields. So there are several important factors people to consider. Some say they see their ranking like Q1, Q2, Q3. Some their impact factor. Few say see their citation. There are different kinds of perception. It varies. So it is very difficult to tell a clear-cut guideline that, okay, you should follow this. It doesn't happen. Okay. It varies from different group to group, person to person. But only thing is that to do the journal publication, what you should do, you should see whether the journal is legitimate one or not. Now, when you are going to submit in a journal, you have to write a cover letter, right? Which should be submitted along with your manuscript. There, you should write the title of your paper, a very concise description of your work. Of course, don't rewrite or just copy paste your abstract. Okay, the person who is reading it, they don't like it. And highlight the novelty and the importance. And one must highlight that why do you think that this work should be published in this journal or that journal? Okay, and conflict of interest statement is very important. You should also inform the editor in the cover letter that all your authors have agreed to publish this work. Nowadays, earlier, like you had to give names of reviewers in the cover letter, but nowadays, for most of the journals, actually, they have a separate section where you have to write the names and email IDs of your reviewers. And yes, you can, of course, unselect some reviewer also. So this is the thing. Okay, so this is basically the peer review process. It's very straightforward. We all know this. Now, in the editorial review or the desk rejection, it happens. So the peer review, the thing is that if your work is not that novel, or if your work is not very attractive at the first instance, then generally the review editor rejects that manuscript without sending it for a reviewer. Okay. And in the first decision from the editor's desk, it generally doesn't get accepted. And of course, in mostly what happens whenever, even after like revision also, all the reviewers, I mean, generally it is the 3 reviewers, 3 to more than 1. Okay, so like 2 or 3, all of them say like, yes, you accept the paper in its first decision. It's very rare. But yeah, it happens. I'm not saying that it doesn't never happens. It happens, but it's rare. They always suggest you some modifications. I mean, if it is like major recommendation or minor recommendation, you should always consider them very judiciously. You should modify your paper like that, manuscript like that, and eventually it will get, if the reviewers agree with the changes, then it gets accepted. Okay. So this is like about this major revision and minor revision. And response letter. Yeah. So this is very important. This is from my experience. I can share it, like very nicely copy paste each comment and then type your response. What I generally follow, I write it like comment and then response to reviewer. Then I give my response, and then I also write action taken, that in the manuscript what exact changes I have done. I also mention that. So it's a good practice, but obviously different people do it differently. And but I mean, you should consider the your response letter as a very important task. Okay, and you should act on this like this. Okay, so do not do yourself a disfavor, but cherish your work. See, you have spent weeks and months in the lab or library to do the research, and to do this response letter, probably you have to spend maybe 7-10 days. So why not to spend this much of time, right? So it is better to do this. Now, the common reasons are like I have already explained, like the research question should be very specific, the manuscript should follow the journal's instruction from the author. Of course, while choosing the journal, you should see the scope of the journal. I mean, if you are sending a paper of, say, healthcare to an energy journal, I mean, they won't accept, right? So you have to see those things. You have to consider those things while submitting the paper. And uh, the flow of the paper should be very good. The paper should not be written in poor English. It should not have mistakes. Okay, then it becomes pain for the reviewer to go through the manuscript. Okay, so and this figure caption, table caption, all these things, I mean, they should be done with proper care, with utmost care. Okay, so basically, you can see like this acceptance is nicely written by editor-in-chief Ore Reviews. So what leads to acceptance? Okay, these are the criteria. And finally, I told in the beginning that ethics of science writing is very, very important. So don't do any plagiarism. It's a very, very wrong practice. Okay, ensure exclusivity, acknowledge sources wherever it is relevant, avoid false and overclaims. Whatever you have done, simply narrate it. Okay, reviewers may suggest that okay, you have to add a little more. Accept it, no problem. But don't do the false claim and this plagiarism. It's a very, very bad practice. Ultimately, you have to retract the paper someday. So why to waste your time now? Okay. So ethics is very, very important. You should not fall in the trap of scientific misconduct. publication misconduct, like duplicate publication, duplicate submission. I mean, see, whenever we submit, we have to click or tick on a checkbox to mention that this manuscript has not been submitted in some other journal at the same time. So whenever you are, clicking on that checkbox, you should be ethical. Okay, remember this. And plagiarism has many form. Okay, so don't fall in the trap of plagiarism, even in the trap of self-plagiarism. It's very, very important. So authors must appropriately acknowledge the prior research, appropriately identify all the co-authors, disclose the conflict of integration. And I just told this data fabrication, data falsification, these are nasty jobs. I mean, don't do these things. No one should do this. Little more time probably, will be required to do a correct thing. Why we should not do the correct thing, right? It's very, very important to be ethical. Okay. And at the same time, we should not do the duplicate publication. So there are cases. What people do, they send, maybe they publish something, and then after a few years, they again send the same paper to some other journal with sometimes with the same title also, and maybe sometimes they just change the title. But in today's era of internet, everything can be can be all informations can be obtained just within a click. Okay, so there is no point of doing duplicate. Ultimately, what will happen, the journal house or the other people, they will blacklist you. So one should not do this. And of course, this figure manipulation, if I think that, okay, I will just rotate the figure 180 degree and it will be a new, then you are on the fool's paradise. No point of doing all these things. Okay. So I have talked a lot about plagiarism. I'm not going to, extend this. And I think again, so basically, this ethics, it comes from your conscience, and it is your responsibility to be ethical. So one has to be ethical in scientific publication, in scientific study, and it is our moral responsibility. So, this manuscriptedit.com, they have several kind of support system for you, starting from the pre-research support, during research support, and the post-research support. They have different kind of services. So if you need any help, you can contact them, Manuscriptedit. They will be more than happy to help you to sort out your issues. So they will help. And there are few journals, I think 25 journals, under this reciprojournal.com. You can go through these journals also, how they are doing. And I'll stop here, thanking you. And I would love to have some questions from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful webinar. There was one question. Please explain how to write a book chapter.
Okay. So, so generally, to write down the book chapter, literature survey is very, very important, and the book chapter planning is little different from the usual scientific publication. Okay, manuscript. So here, actually, in book chapter, I would say that you need to focus more on the literature survey, what already people have seen, and in the book chapter, this novelty component, I would say, is little different from the journal publication. Okay, so this is basically in book chapter, you need to highlight the basic understanding. If you are trying to describe some mechanism or some result, then you need to describe the basic mechanism behind it, along with the suitable references.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else would like to ask some questions? Please go ahead. You can write your questions in the Q&A tab also. We have got another question, ma'am. When we are doing review writing regarding some medicine and about its previous research, what are the main things that should be kept in mind?
So it's by Hirsch. Problem is that, see, I'm not a medical person, and like my research domain is not healthcare. So I can't tell it specifically for this medicine thing. But um, what I feel that even if you are trying you are saying that you want to write a review. So as I have explained, first you find out a topic which is of interest to you, and then you do the literature search on it. Okay, so that you will have a history that on that particular topic, how research is progressing. And on the basis of that, you can write a review article. I see one question by Nazira that, ma'am, can you
Yes, ma'am.
suggest any topic for journal writing? My domain is philosophy. Again, Nazira, I'm very sorry. Again, I'm not from philosophy background. My background is material science, mostly in energy sector. Any topic for journal writing? Uh, See, in this way, it is very difficult to say, like you are in philosophy and how can I suggest you any topic? That's what I told, that if you are interested in doing research, you must be, must have been in contact with some say your teacher, or maybe your friends, or maybe your seniors. So you can discuss with them, and you can find some suitable topic of research first. So once you do the research, so like as I have told you, so first you need to choose the topic. Then on the topic, you have to do the literature search, that what people have already done. And then you have to do your own research to do some sort of advancement, and then you can report your findings to a journal. So just I can't tell you some topic uh, for a journal writing. It will be, I mean, wise to discuss with the experienced people in your field.
Anyone else would like to ask some questions? So we have one more question here. On what aspects should we search a journal for publication?
Yes. So the aspects will vary. Uh, as I have told during my presentation. So first thing what one should see that the scope of the journal. So that is the first thing one should see, like whether your research topic is falling under the scope of the journal. This is the first thing one should see. And then the secondary things come, like impact factor. People sometimes they have preferences of impact factor. They have preferences of indexing, whether they are Scopus index, they are say SCI indexed, this kind of indexing preference. Sometimes people have expectations like duration, how much time the journal house will take to publish my article. Okay, so this is another thing. The other thing could be like free open access, because most of the open access journal they take money. Okay, they not money, they take fee, open access fee. So I mean, again, it is under choice. Like someone, I mean, someone is okay with that, that okay, I'm ready to give the open access fee. Some are like, no, I can't give the open access fee. So I mean, they can just exclude those journals. And of course, there are citation, reputation. Like some journals, they don't have that kind of very high impact factor, but the journals are very old and highly reputed. So it depends on that also. Like if someone wishes, okay, yeah, I want to publish in that journal, although its impact factor is less. So it depends on person to person. It's a very personal choice.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful webinar. Shall we wind up for the day?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for participating.
So I'm exiting. Leave, Shati?
Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much for
Yeah,
the
thank you.
presentation.